Time to talk NASCAR with our 120 Sports auto racing analyst, Nick DeGroot. Nick, the NASCAR action was in Atlanta Motor Speedway today. Brad Keselowski snapped a 19-race winless streak. He actually beat Kyle Larson down the stretch. Was there a misstep by Larson, or take us through what happened towards the end?
I think there was. Kyle Larson, he had a really great race today, and at the end of this, with some issues with Kevin Harvick, he really found himself in a perfect position, leading this race with less than 10 to go. But he made a mistake, I think, with about 8 laps to go when he ran the high line in 1 and 2. And I understand why he did it. He explained it after the race, trying to take Brad's line. But Brad almost got to the inside of him there, and that was a warning. Because 1 lap later, when Larson did the same thing again, went high in 1 and 2, that time Keselowski did get to his inside, and he was able to hold that left rear fender all the way till turn 3 and just pass him. And Larson was never able to get him back. And I think Keselowski had the better car. So Larson's only chance there was to defend Keselowski on the bottom, especially with those fresh tires. So I think he did a misstep there by going high when he did.
Kevin Harvick was a guy who just dominated this race. He led 292 of 325 laps, but did not take the checkers. What happened with Harvick?
Kevin Harvick, I mean, they call him the closer, but he did not close today. Late in that race, we had a caution with Austin Dillon, and with 11 laps to go, he was on, or 12 laps to go or so, he was on pit road, leading the race. The ball's in his court, and he sped. And when I say he sped, I mean only just. He could only go 50 miles per hour, and he was caught going a third of a mile per hour over the speed limit on pit road. And that's enough, though, because they sent him to the back of the field. He lost that race. There was no way to redeem it. So that was really just driver error there, but we saw it a lot that day. He wasn't the only one. We saw 13 different drivers get tagged for speed, including Jimmy Johnson, who's the 7-time defending champion. But Kevin Harvick, I mean, he had that race in the bag, and it just all went away there right at the very end. He took full responsibility for it after the race, and if there's any consolation, he does leave Atlanta with the points lead because he won those first 2 stages of the race and collected a lot of bonus points.
So we're now 2 races into the Monster Energy Series Championship, or series season, so to speak. What has been your biggest takeaway so far?
My biggest takeaway is the different, how should I say it, the different aspect of competition we're seeing after 2 races. We've seen the Fords, they've really stepped up their game. Last year, Toyota, they absolutely dominated. Chevrolet ended up winning the championship. But Ford, they've brought Storehouse Racing into the fold, and they've really come out of the box swinging. They got a 1-2 in the Daytona 500 with Ryan Blaney and Kurt Busch. And with Kevin Harvick today, they were going to win this race. And even with Kevin Harvick having his issues, they still won the race with Brad Keselowski. So I really think Ford has come back strong. They haven't won a driver's championship in well over a decade, and I know it's early in the season, but from what I've seen, I think that this could really be the year to come back. And on top of that, Rich Hills Racing are showing a lot of strength, and Joe Gibbs Racing really aren't showing near as much strength as they were last year, as is the other Toyota team, Furniture Row Racing.
Let's talk about the track at Atlanta Motor Speedway. There had been some talk about repaving the track after this race, but officials say they might reconsider that. Maybe some of the drivers think they should leave it alone. After you saw what happened in today's race, what do you think they should do?
A lot of the drivers, including even retired drivers like Jeff Gordon and Mark Martin, they really want NASCAR to keep this track the way it is, and SMI to keep this track the way it is. But they did plan to repave it. I will be really surprised if they go back on that and decide they're not going to. Me personally, I hope they don't. Today wasn't the best show Atlanta's ever had. The ending was great, but most of all, the race really was a bit of parade. I think that can be in part due to Kevin Harvick's complete domination. But I love this track, and a lot of fans love this track for how unique it is, how hard it is to drive. You see these cars going off to the corner, and they got a handful. They're turning to the right to keep those things going in the right direction, and it tears apart the tires. It's just a great racetrack, puts on great shows most of the time, and I know repaving is inevitable, but I hope they put it off for as long as they can, because this track is so great the way it is.
Well, it was a great finish today. We'll see how it all plays out with the repaving. Nick, we appreciate your insight. Thanks for being with us here on 120 Sports.
Thanks for having me on.